Gentlemen, let's talk about a North American in Europe. And we all know that there's still a stigma there. And hey, maybe even works in the reverse. I mean, can you imagine a European coach coming and coaching an NHL team, right? Like, we understand that a lot of times you want to stick to who you know and who you feel knows the sport best. And in Europe, they still feel that that would be a European coach. Bob Bradley, currently with Toronto FC, he obviously dealt with it when he was in Europe. And how about Jesse Marsch? He went on over to Europe. We know, joined the German League 2018. He was, part of the management team and also as head coach, RP Leipzig, Red Bull Salzburg. Now he's in the Premier League. He's taken over with Leeds United. And Gareth, I'm going to start with you on this one because I know we've had a little bit of fun with this on the show in the past, especially when it comes to Ted Lasso, which, by the way, awesome show. Get on the bandwagon. He kind of made a little quib where he just goes, I don't think Ted Lasso helps our case here in Europe. True or false?
I think it's true. I think you're right. I think that the way that the British footballing audience looked at Bob Bradley when he was manager of Swansea City told a story. I think that Chris Armas on the Manchester United bench tells the story. And I think that Jesse Marsch, the reaction amongst, British soccer fans that, an American's coming in to take over that role. I think there is a stigma there, and it has nothing to do with coaching acumen or how good of a manager the individual may be. It's about the way that he speaks, which I find a little bit prehistoric, out of date for me. I think we deal with it a little bit here in an opposite way, that I think a lot of people, whether it be coaches or broadcasters, are much more familiar with an English accent when it's presented over here. It adds, in some people's minds, an authenticity. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that, a guy like Marsch with a very good resume, highly regarded, the sentiment almost sets him back before his team even kicks the ball with him as a manager. I think it's problematic, which is funny because he actually does speak the language, and a lot of other managers, when they come over, like Bielsa, who just was relieved of his duties, had to speak through a translator. And that wasn't a problem whatsoever. He was so highly regarded at Leeds and beyond. But it seems like Jesse Marsch is going to be managing from a deficit to begin with. So I think some of these antiquated or older ways of thinking need to go by the wayside now. It's a global game. Even in this country, the way that we look at things and listen to things, I think that needs to change as well. And the more individuals with strong resumes to be, to be managers that are American, Canadian, what have you, I think that it bodes well for the game, different ideas going to different countries. So I don't think that it should be a problem, but I think that Jesse Marsch is spot on, and Ted Lasso's unfortunately what many people think about, even though he ends up winning and doing well and all of his players love him. So
right?
It's kind of like it's kind of like a backhanded compliment, but I do think that stigma exists, and I think that it's time for it to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely a stigma and a prejudice, I think, especially among media, especially in England in particular. I mean, remember when Bob Bradley got completely slaughtered for saying PK? And I think he said road games, and they didn't like that. And he ended up being in charge of Swansea City for like 10 or 11 games. He didn't really get a chance to actually turn a struggling team around. So there is this prejudice, and I think it is specific to American, and if we were to see a Canadian coach in a level like the Premier League, it would probably extend to them as well. But as Gareth mentioned, kind of when coaches come in from other countries that are maybe perceived more as footballing nations, they come in, and even if they don't speak the language or anything, they come in and they're talked about as bringing in elements of their country and the way that football is played in their country.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that can't be the case for American coaches to come in, because obviously there is a difference in the way the game is played and viewed and coached in the United States. Why can't there be elements of that can transfer into a new level? So it is kind of an unfortunate stigma, but I do really like Jesse Marsch as a coach, and I'm kind of excited to see if he can maybe flip the script on this a little bit. I think it helps that he's very cognizant of the challenges in front of him right now. He made these self-deprecating jokes about Ted Lasso and a lot himself. He knows what the challenges are, and I think he's learned a lot probably from Bob Bradley's experience in particular. So if anybody's going to do it, I think it could be him that kind of turns things around there. And I absolutely hope that he does, because he's a very good football coach.
Don't you think it's foolish? Like we're judging people on their accent or
Thank
lack
you.
thereof, or like
Yeah,
soccer, football,
exactly.
or penalty PK. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, I don't think that necessarily exists in hockey or basketball and other sports, Andy. I think it's just there's this ownership
Not to that
over the
extent.
game of football. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's very bizarre to me, because I don't know about you two. I personally don't care. Like, as long as they have good ideas, they can explain the game, articulate their thoughts. It shouldn't matter whatsoever.
You
No,
can
and
call the game whatever you want as long as you win.